Good afternoon, eighth grade. It's time for more factoring. We're going to be factoring similar trinomials today. And today we're going to factor trinomials that have a coefficient other than 1. So they will be of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Let's think about what happens when you multiply two binomials. Looking at the example of 3x plus 2 and 2x plus 5, the coefficient of the x term after you multiply, the x squared term after you multiply, is the product of the coefficients of the x terms. So using FOIL, when we multiply 3x times 2x, we get 6x squared. Also, the constant in the trinomial is the product of the constants in the binomial. Looking at 3x plus 2 and 2x plus 5, we get the last term of the trinomial by doing 2 times 5, which is 10. Using this information, we can go backwards and we can factor our trinomial into the product of two binomials. We're going to do this by thinking about the factors of the coefficient of the x term and the factors of the constants. The factors of 6 are 2 and 3, or 1 and 6. Factors of 4 are 2 and 2, or 1 and 4. We're going to factor this trinomial by guess and check and using these factors. I know that after I factored, if this does factor, I will have a binomial times a binomial. I know that both of them will be addition because all three terms are positive. So I'm going to pick two of the factors. I'm going to pick the 2 and the 3, and I'm going to put the 3x in here and the 2x in here. I know that will give me my leading term of 6x squared after I use FOIL. For the last term, I can use 2 and 2 or 1 and 4. I'm going to use 2 and 2. I know this will give me the correct last term of 4, but when I check my multiplication, 3x times 2 is 6x, and 2 times 2x is 4x. This gives me a middle term of 10x. I need a middle term of 11x. So I need to guess two different factors. I'm going to leave the 3 and the 2 for right now, but instead of using 2 and 2 for my last term of each binomial, I use 1 and 4. This should be 2x plus 4. This time when I multiply using FOIL, I get 6x squared, and 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2x is 14x. I still do not have the correct middle term. I'm going to keep the 1 and the 4, but I think I'll switch places. Instead of 3x plus 1, I'll put 3x plus 4, and instead of 2x plus 4, I'll put 2x plus 1. Now, once again, I know my leading term is 6x squared because 3x times 2x is 6x squared. I know my last term is 4 because 1 times 4 is 4. Let me check my outside and my inside. For the outside, I get 3x times 1, which is 3x. For the inside, I get 4 times 2x, which is 8x. When I add my like terms together, I get what I'm looking for, 11x. So I correctly factored this trinomial 6x squared plus 11x plus 4 into the two binomials 3x plus 4 and 2x plus 1. So the best way to learn this is to do examples. So let's look at another example. Factors of 2 are 1 and 2. Factors of 21 are 3 and 7, 1 and 21. I'm going to break this apart into its two binomials. Again, I know both will be added, addition, because all my terms are positive. My first term for each binomial, one has to be 2x and one has to be x. That gives me my leading term, 2x squared. For the last term, I think I'll use 3 and 7 rather than 1 and 21. So put a 3 here and a 7 here. Now I'm going to multiply using FOIL. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 7 is 14x plus 3x, which is 17x. I've got the correct answer with the first try. That happens sometimes, and the more of these you do, the better you'll get, the better able you are to correctly guess the first time. Another example is 3x squared minus 16x plus 16. My leading coefficient is 3, so my only choices are 1 and 3. For 16, however, I could have 1 and 16, I could have 4 and 4, I could have 2 and 8. So I have more choices, more guessing and checking to do here. This time I have a middle term that's negative. Let's see, what does that tell me? How is the middle term going to be negative and the last term positive? Well, if the last term is positive, I know I have a negative times a negative to make my positive, and that also gives me a negative middle term. I'm going to fill in with 3x and x, and then I'm going to choose 2 for the last term. I'm going to choose 4 and 4. Now I'm going to multiply using FOIL. 3x times x is 3x squared. My outside term is negative 12x. My inside term is negative 4x. Guess correctly again. Negative 12x minus 4x is negative 16x. And my last term, negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 16. So this is my factor trinomial. 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4. In the next example, my middle term is positive, and my last term is negative. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Factors of 4 are 1 and 4, 2 and 2. Let's think about what our factor binomials will look like. If the last term is negative, the only way to get a negative last term is for one of the binomials to be added and the other to be subtracted. That can give me a negative middle term or a positive middle term, depending on which middle term or which has the bigger absolute value. And it will also give me a negative for my last term. Using my choices for factors, I'm going to choose 3n plus 2 and n minus 2. I'm using the 2 times 2 factors of 4. When I multiply, I get 3n squared. My outside term is negative 6n. My inside term is positive 2n. Now, negative 6n minus or plus 2n is negative 4n, not 11n. So this is not the correct answer. It's time to guess again. 3n plus 1. I'm going to use 1 and 4 this time for my factors of 4. Okay, so my leading term I know is 3n squared. I know my last term will be minus 4. Let's check the middle term. 3n times negative 4 is negative 12n. 1 times n is n. Negative 12n plus 1n is negative 11n. Now, I am very close. You'll notice the original problem, the middle term is positive. My middle term is negative. If you get to that point, all you have to do to get the correct answer is to switch the second term. So instead of 3n plus 1, I'm going to make that 3n minus 1. And instead of n minus 4, I'm going to make it n plus 4. Now when I multiply, I get 3n squared. I get 12n minus n, which is plus 11n minus 4. This is correct, so this is my correct answer. 3n minus 1 and n plus 4. I have 2 more examples for you today, looking at 2 different cases. In this next example, the last term is also negative. 2x squared plus 9x minus 18. Factors of 2 are 1 and 2. Factors of 18 are 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Now I know when I use these two factors, one is positive, one is negative. My leading terms will be 2x and x. I know inside my binomials I have one positive factor and one negative factor. I'm going to put a 2 and x minus 3 and an x plus 6. I'm going to multiply to check my answer. That gives me 2x squared plus 12x minus 3x minus 18. This looks good because when I combine my like terms, I get 2x squared plus 9x minus 18. And this is my correct factored form for my trinomials. This time we're going to have two negative signs. So we'll have 4x squared minus 15x minus 4. Again, I know one is positive, one is negative. That's the only way to get my negative last term. Factors of 4 I know are 1 and 4, 2 and 2. Same thing for here. 1 and 4, 2 and 2. Let's fill in the blanks. Let's try 2 and 2 first. So we have 2x and 2x. And let's do 2 and 2. What does this give me? This gives me 4x squared. I have a positive 4x. Oh, I should have known this. This is my special product, the difference of two squares. So my final answer is 4x squared plus 4. That's not correct. This time I will choose, I believe I'll choose the 4 and the 1. So I got 4x minus 1 and x plus 4. This gives me coefficients of 4 and my last term of 4. So that gives me 4x squared plus 16x minus 1x minus 4. When I combine my like terms, I get 4x squared plus 15x minus 4. I'm almost there because my middle term is correct, but it's the opposite sign. So remember what to do. You're going to leave everything in the right place, in the same place, but instead of 4x minus 1, you're going to do 4x plus 1. And instead of x plus 4, you'll do x minus 4. Now let's try multiply. I get 4x squared minus 16x plus 1x minus 16, and negative 16x plus 1 gives me my negative 15x for my middle term. This is the correct factoring of my trinomial. One last example. I'm going to show you what to do if your leading coefficient is negative. Here I have negative 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. Now all those negative signs can get confusing, so before I do anything else, I'm going to factor out a negative 1. I'm going to pull that negative 1 out front, and I'm going to divide each term by negative 1. That means they will all become positive, which is much nicer. Now I have two numbers that factors of 2 are 1 and 2. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3. When I start factoring, at every point, I'm going to leave my negative 1 out front. So I got negative 1 out front. I know this time everything's positive, so my two binomials will be positive. And I'll do 2x plus 1 and x plus 3. Let's see what I've got here. When I multiply it, it gives me, gives me negative 1 times, can't forget my negative 1. Negative 1 times 2x squared plus 6x plus 1x plus 3. 6x plus 1x is 7x. Ooh, I need a 5x. So let me adjust just a little bit. Since 7x and 5x are pretty close, I'm going to leave the 2x in the front. But instead of plus 1, I'll make it plus 3. And here I'll put x plus 1. So I've switched places between the 3 and the 1. When I multiply, I get negative 1 times 2x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 3, and success, because 2x plus 3x is 5x, which is the correct middle term. So my final factored answer is negative 1 times 2x plus 3 times x plus 1. And that's all for today. Thank you.